this. And going live on this. And we are back on Bucks and Brews. We're getting better at this, Nick. It's only been a week.
Dude, we did nail it this time.
We did nail it this time. So, if you haven't been listening lately, the summer was tough for us. I tried to die, and Nick
tried to die.
Yeah.
Other things,
yeah. So we are actually back on a regular schedule again, which makes us very happy. We're joined tonight by Marvin Storm. Marvin is an entrepreneur, which we love entrepreneurs.
We do.
And he's going to talk to us about selling your businesses and hopefully getting a lot of money for it, because that's kind of why we do what we do.
Yeah,
we want money.
Figure out how to value them.
So tonight, Nick, I'm partaking in pumpkin.
Dude, you are like the pumpkin king.
I am pumpkin king tonight. I have New Holland's Ichabod pumpkin ale. I have Atwater's pumpkin spice latte, which I can't wait to try. I've not had this one. And then if I'm feeling really excited, I got a Pigeon Hill donut stop believing.
Say, journey it up, brother.
You better believe it.
Tonight I stop at the gas station. That's where I pick up my stuff because I don't have time to go to the real stores. You're gonna love this because it's discount day.
I love discount day.
I got Founders Solid Gold, which is it's a generic.
I'm not
lager,
much
right?
for those light lagers, but that one's pretty good.
And then one of my favorite beers, just like on a regular drinking basis, Dirty Bastard from Founders. Yeah. So when I say it's discount day, so this is originally $11 for a 6-pack, and I got the discount of 2 for $15. So of course you got to buy 2 of them, right?
Of course you do.
It's written right there. So
Founders right down the road.
Yeah, we wouldn't be a financial podcast if we didn't teach people to save money on their beer.
We definitely would not.
So we did say Marvin Storm's here. We're actually really excited being the entrepreneur. Marvin, why don't you walk us through, I guess, where you come from and a little bit more towards where you are now?
Oh, great. That's really great to be here. And I love the banter at the beginning there. It is absolutely critical that you learn how to save money on beer. That is absolutely the foundational component of a good financial plan.
Jeez, this
so
guy's
I'm glad that I'm glad you're sharing those pearls of wisdom. No, I grew up in an entrepreneur family. I come from the Midwest, a little town in South Dakota. When I grew up, it was about 3,000 to maybe 3,500 people when I grew up. So it was kind of an Opie Taylor type of environment. When I grew up, I literally had my fishing pole and went down when I was 7, 8 years old and went to the fishing hole and caught fish and dragged them home and skinned them and gutted them and had our trout at the end of the day. So it was a great. My father was an entrepreneur, had his own business. He was a mechanic. He had his shop, had 3 or 4 people working for him, and so I saw the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial lifestyle when things were going well and when things got a little dicey. And he would be working 12, 14 hours a day, and my mom kept the books and had her own job. She did the books at night and on weekends. And so I saw what it was to work hard as an entrepreneur. And my dad, kind of wanted me to have a life a little bit better than his. He didn't want me to follow in his footsteps. And so I did. I went and got an education, got my degree in accounting, and went to work for a large accounting firm, national firm. And after a couple of years there, every Tuesday night, I played pickup basketball and bumped into a guy there that was kind of a similar mindset. And we got to chatting. And before we knew it, we were turning in our resignations and launching a business. And that was in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I lived in the East Bay across the bridge from San Francisco. And we got a 300 square foot office in downtown Oakland on the 13th floor and 2 desks and a phone, and we were in business. And we had some interesting and very thin times as far as cash flow. I had starting a family at the time, and so all the entrepreneurs out there, business owners, know what you have to go through to work hard and build the business to get a little momentum and lift under the wings. And I had those experiences too. Had a great run for about 10 years with my partner. And as often happens, our life goals changed, and I wanted to go left. He wanted to go right. And so we met in a local park and shook hands, and we decided to wind the business down, sell it, and move on to other things. And I started a few other ventures and had success, one unsuccessful exit and a couple of good exits. And then I ended up acquiring a national firm in a turnaround situation. And that's what a few years ago, I exited from that business and thought, now's the good, what everyone dreams of is taking it easy. And so I pulled up stakes in the Bay Area and moved up to the mountains on the way to Lake Tahoe and the Sierra foothills. And that's where I am now. And thought that would be great, just take it easy. And
Yeah.
I guess that's the dream, but in reality, once you've had the pedal to the metal for years and decades, and when you're in the slow lane or coasting and maybe even parked on the side of the road, it gets boring fairly quickly. And so I just got to thinking a little bit about all the decades of experience I had and my last exit or two, and thought, if I'd have just been a little bit more dialed in on what I should be doing, because you don't get, entrepreneurs that have a business to become really good at what they do, and because they do it every day. But when it comes time to sell or exit your business and head for the door, and you only do that maybe 2-3 times in your whole life, if that many. And so you don't get really good at it. And so I thought, I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that were like me that needed a little bit more insight. And so I started a podcast called Business Exit Stories, where I interview the deal makers, M&A advisors, business brokers, CPAs, attorneys, that are involved in the deal flow, and they share their war stories, the good, bad, and some really ugly transactional stories that they've been involved in, and some of the takeaways from the good and the bad, and why the great exits turned out the way they did, and some that didn't go so well. What were the reasons behind those? And so it's been a fascinating ride for me the last few years, and I've just really enjoyed helping, those entrepreneurs that spend sometimes a decade, maybe 2, maybe a lifetime building up their business, and then dropping the baton on the last lap. That's what's really sad.
Yeah. So a couple things real quick. You said you come from a town of like 3,500, and your father had 4 or 5 employees. Like that's a lot of, there's a lot of cars as a mechanic for 3,500 people. I mean,
he had several people working for him, and I would go out to the shop in the summer when I was a kid, and I'd wash parts and sweep the floor and
Sure.
and help. Try not to get too much in the way, to help out a little bit, and
Sure.
and I just saw what it took and how hard he worked, and so I had no illusions that
Sure.
the
So
entrepreneurial life can be challenging.
the business that you were in South Dakota, and I guess what brought you to California? I mean, you were playing basketball in South Dakota, then you and your partner said, hey, our best base is California, or?
No, I graduated and got my first job in Chicago with a national firm downtown Chicago, and in school I met a young lady and became my wife, and she was a Californian. And after some time in Chicago in the cold, windy winters, she said we had an opportunity to buy a home and some property in California. So she said, you can stay here, but I'm headed to California. So we packed our covered U-Haul and moved west. And that's how we ended up in California, in the Bay Area. And we were there for the good part of my career,
Okay.
30 plus years.
So, and what business, I guess, did you open up? You open up a CPA or?
No, it was actually an equipment leasing company.
Okay.
And during some of the tax work I did in the accounting world involved, tax planning, and equipment leasing at the time had some attractive tax benefits if you could structure the leases properly and syndicate those leases. And so we opened up shop and, doing that type of thing. But the world changes, tax laws change. And it became very challenging after a while because of how the tax laws modified our business, and we were forced to change how we did things. It just became too hard to make a living doing that. So we, pivoted and moved on. So
Sure.
it's just like entrepreneurs do. They're agile, when one door closes, you go to the next one,
Sure. And so then you opened a couple more businesses after that? Same types of businesses, or what do we?
No, I had done some equipment leasing for some franchise-based businesses, and I got kind of intrigued with the franchise model. And so I opened up bought into a franchise that was in the logistics and packaging and shipping environment, and ended up having 7 or 8 locations in the Bay Area, and then became a regional franchisee for that company, and opened up about 40 of those locations and throughout Northern California. And after that, I acquired another group of franchises, and then another company franchises. And I had actually 4 different franchise concepts, and built up a kind of a regional franchise management company. And opportunity came along. An opportunity came along to buy a franchise company that was nationally based, and so I took that project on, and I spent a number of years doing that. And that was the company that I exited a few years ago.
Okay.
I will say, I would never move to California, mostly because I don't want to be closer to my father. But if I did, it would be the Bay Area.
Is that San Diego?
No,
Because that's the only place I'd go.
San Francisco, Oakland.
As long as it's
San Diego sounds.
I hear it's like 70 something degrees all year round. Like you get like a day of rain, maybe.
I will agree with your wife.
And I can
The
sleep that
winters
day.
up here are horrible.
Yeah. Say we're in Michigan. It's not as bad as South Dakota. At least we have things to do here in Michigan. So my wife and I.
Well,
visited
I come from the part of South Dakota where there actually are things to do in the Black Hills area, and that's where
That's where you went.
That's where I went.
That's where Sturgis is, and the
Yeah.
700,000 people that show up every year, or 700,000 that show up every year with their
Sure.
motorcycles. So
once a year, but I need interaction like every 2 seconds. I mean, I don't.
You and I are big city guys.
I kind of am.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could tell you I'd like to
We're
go
big guys and
hunt-
we're big city guys.
hunt and fish, but I love, honestly, the only way I love to fish is just it's an excuse to have beer in my,
That's why you fish, isn't it?
right. Like it's the only reason. Like I don't even need bait. I don't bring bait when I fish. Like if DNR pulls me over, they're like, hey, I was like, I don't even have a line out. Like I'm just, here it is, right? So tell us now. So you take the business, you and your partner split, and you realize that exiting is a good key. So you want out of being an entrepreneur. So one of the things that's kind of happening in my life, and I'll kind of walk you through it. So I'm an entrepreneur. I own some real estate. I started a graphics company like everybody else in the world, right? Make t-shirts. I'm a magician, so I can make things disappear. I did that kind of business.
You've done a lot of things.
I've done a lot of businesses, right? So, I can't say like my businesses I've sold, right? Because I never sell my businesses. I either just kind of like dwindle them down and they just sit around, and because I've already made my money in it, right? Like I could have made money selling it, but I just don't. But in the real estate, I'm kind of I'm still in that grind mode, right? Like picking up more, but I have a mentor that at one point owned, a substantial amount of units, above 500 by himself, right? And actually we just sat to lunch today, and he has 5 buildings left to get rid of, and he's one of his big concerns is, what am I going to do when I'm done, right? Like I'm just going to retire, and like he's so used to that daily grind. When you have that lifestyle of you're doing something every day, I guess walk us through kind of what it looks like to start slowing down, and what things we should look at when we're looking to sell a business, and why we should look to sell a business.
well, that's kind of the big question. a business can provide a lifestyle. It can provide income and cash flow to fund what you like to do and take care of the family and have a little extra over to buy real estate or invest outside of the business, or, just have whatever you want if you can invest wisely. And, but, that core business that you spend all this time, years and decades building, there's value there. And the issue generally is that there is a process to follow. Like in real estate, if you do the right things in real estate, you leverage the real estate properly, you don't get overextended, if it's rental property, either residential or commercial, and you find the right tenants and you structure the leases right, and you do all of these core things in the real estate business, over time, you build equity and you can sell that property. But if you don't do the right things, and a lot of real estate, professionals and investors will tell you, it can be a hard business, and you can end up at the end of the day with very little because of the mistakes that you made along the way. And in real estate, there are principles, there are things that you need to do to be successful. And when you're running a business, in order to monetize everything that you've worked all this time, if you do the right things along the way, when you get to the end of the road and you want to sell that business, you'll have value there to sell. You will have something that somebody else wants. Either it will fund their lifestyle, or they'll maybe be able to take it to the next level because their skill set's a little different.
Sure.
And if you position the business for a specific type of buyer, you may be surprised how much value you can extract out of the business. The problem is no one starts thinking 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road. They're so busy grinding it away in the business, like you said, is they don't have time, or don't take the time, I should say, to think a little bit about some of those things they could do in advance to create the value. So when you exit their business, I know I've been down that road. I've been so tied up and consumed in my business. I wasn't thinking about 5 or 10 years down the road. It was only later, after I'd had a couple of exits, that I said, if I'd have done things a little bit differently, and I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to do things differently this time around. And that's a little bit about why after my last exit, I said, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone that I could learn about the process. And so that's what the podcast is all about. That's what I enjoy doing now, is, providing that insight to people that at some point in time, they're going to exit, because there's only 3 things that can happen to a business. One, you're going to pass it on to a family member, an employee, a partner, someone inside of the business. You're going to sell it to a third party, someone you don't know, or you're going to voluntarily or involuntarily exit the business. You'll be pushed out in a bankruptcy, or you'll voluntarily wind it down and just liquidate it and close it down and move on and say it was a great run. And those are the only 3 things that can happen.
Sure.
And if those are the 3 things, pick out which one that may be the best fit in your specific situation, and then plan for it. And there is a methodology in the planning.
Okay.
Being that my wife owns a business, she's been asked several times what it would take to buy her out.
Yeah.
Her number is way lower than mine.
It's because you see so much different potential, right? Like
I
you
do.
see growth aspects. Yeah.
I mean, when I look at the business we have here, I know that, within 5 years, we'll be turning out 700,000-800,000 a year at least.
Sure.
Whereas she's going, if somebody paid me 5 right now, I'm out.
So,
And to me, that's just short-sighted. So I guess the question, Marvin, is when do you know it's a good time just to say, all right, I got what I need from this, let's go do the next thing?
Well, that's a question that is really defined by what you want to do. if, like you said, in describing your situation there with your wife and the business that she's running 5 years down the road, or 7, or whatever that, time window is, you put a stake in the sand and you say, it can either be metrics driven by the sales volume or the profitability, or it could be lifestyle driven. I'm going to get to be 40 or 50 or 65 or whenever that number is, and that's the stake in the sand. You plan for that. And then there are certain things, like if you're talking about your wife and the type of business that she has, you start looking at what type of buyer would be interested in my business. Is it a buyer that's going to step in and be there every day and work in the business? Or is it going to be a buyer that wants to manage the business? And if it's the buyer that wants to manage the business, you do different things in positioning that business for sale than you would if you're looking to sell it to someone that's going to operate the business. If you have a highly technical business that requires a lot of skill, like a machinist or something like that, that takes years and sometimes a decade or two to learn the refining of those skills, then you're looking for someone with that skill set that can work in the business. If it's a business that can be managed and you can hire the machinist and your business will support, hiring of additional people, then you're looking for a different type of buyer, and you have to do different types of things to attract that type of buyer. If you don't, the buyers aren't going to be interested, or if they are interested, they won't pay you what it's worth because you haven't done the right things. It's like, I'll use a very simple example of a car. If you maintain the car and you keep your service records and repair records, and you maintain it and it looks good, and it's going to be worth a lot more than if you don't have anything and it's kind of beat up and you haven't taken care of it. It's going to be worth a different amount of money. Now, that's a very simple example, but a business is no different. If the business has good financial records and has a good reputation and all those things that are important to a buyer, then it's going to be worth more than if you didn't pay attention to those things and you just didn't worry too much about financial statements or reconciling the bank statements or taking care of making sure your taxes are filed and you got delinquent taxes and all those things. It's not going to be very attractive to a buyer. And if it is, he won't pay a lot for it.
Well, I guess the same can be said for, what you do with a house.
Yeah, I mean,
So
Absolutely.
well,
That's
'cause I mean,
probably,
like, a
that's
duplex-
probably a better example.
Yeah, like a duplex. So like a single families can go to, a potential, it could go to the tenant who wants to live there forever type thing, where a duplex, hey, like the other side's being rented, my exits are, and I think about my exits because, I theoretically want to be retired. I don't know how to describe it, right? Like, all I know is
you're the working retired,
right? Like, all I know is I just got told you just sit around and drink now. Just go do something. I say I hit financial independence way too young for my wife's liking. Say for my liking, I was ecstatic. But
well, I think too, and Marvin, correct me if I'm wrong, when you're doing something daily and you're working really hard at it and you decide, okay, I'm going to switch gears here and kind of do nothing, you get bored really fast. So you got to do
That's
something.
exactly what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me.
I made it 2 weeks playing video games and then I was done, dude.
Yeah, you were nuts.
I was
I mean, you can only play so many rounds of golf.
I played today. Don't tell anybody.
I haven't played since I played with you last year.
Oh, I did. So my front nine. Marvin, do you golf?
I golf at it. Yeah, I have grandkids that I take golfing, and they're very quickly going to be able to beat me.
So
we love to golf. I'm not very good.
I went like par, bogey. I'm a bogey golfer, right? Like I'm horrible.
I'm like a triple bogey.
Yeah,
golfer.
and I'm +2 through 4.
And you're
then
excited.
I stopped to go to the restroom, and then I hit an 11, a 10, and I was like, I go like 8. I was just like, this.
Well, we would have a good time
ridiculous.
golfing together.
Like I didn't
That's
even.
my kind of golfing.
I drank 1 beer and that was before I even started. Like I was just like, this is no fun now.
If
done.
you would have had a couple more, you would have golfed
I
really
would have
well.
golfed like a king. But
If I have 2 beers, I golf great
Yeah.
because I don't care.
well, and that's the thing. I was sitting there and I was like, I don't care. And like, people were like, oh man, this didn't bother you. And I was like, I could be working or doing,
Yeah.
like, you know what other people are doing right now while I'm here doing this.
I was working.
Right. Like I don't compare myself to others, but I sit here and just go, shit, my life could be way worse right
You don't
now.
compare yourself
Like,
to others, but you compare yourself to others.
right. Like, I'm like, oh man. So, you know, when now you own some logistics companies then. So I used to be in logistics. I was, let's call it a lumper, right? They got paid. So, but I have a few friends that own a few logistics companies. So, they manage the trucks, they do all that aspect of things, and they have their people. So, now is that what you were in for quite a while then?
Yeah, we had a specialty that kind of differentiated what we did, is that we moved valuable, large, fragile items around the country that were one-off type of items, not truckloads of commodity-oriented products.
Sure.
Which is, it was sort of LTL shipping where you had less than a truckload, and you may have my most unique type of shipment that I handled was, nearly $10 million of art out of an estate.
There's art worth 10 million bucks.
Dude, art
Well, there
is
were 30,
very
there were
valuable.
32 pieces worth that much. And I think the most valuable piece was like $2.5–3 million. And when you're shipping that type of value, you have to be extraordinarily careful how it's packed, because it has to be temperature controlled and regulated. And that's original art, that's one of a kind piece, and we had to get special insurance, Lloyd's of London insurance to ship it and move it around. And it had to be packed in a truck, and we sealed the truck with a seal, and the seal was broken at Sotheby's in downtown New York, where it went to auction.
Sure.
And so it was those type of one-off kind of unique shipment that we built our business around. So that was a little different than the traditional logistics, which is commodity based and
Sure.
full truckload shipping.
Sure. One of my companies that I'm friends with, they got to ship Jeff Dunham's dummies or ventriloquist. So that was really cool. And I was like, man, really just want to look at them. Say, but they you basically have to sign like an NDA, right? Like that states like you won't talk about it until it's done completely. Like it's crazy. So I assume you had to do a lot of that. Now, I guess, so you said your partners were in different, or you and your partner had different mindsets and where you wanted to be. Were you looking
over time, your lives go in different directions.
Yeah, of course.
That's just what happened to us.
Did you want to keep, did one of you want to keep going and one of you want out? Or I guess, can you walk us through a little bit of how that kind of worked?
Well, our life situation changed, and lifestyle, kind of the work ethic, of what he wanted to do, and how hard he wanted to work. He was older than I was.
Oh, sure.
And so we're a little bit different point in our life, and plus the business had changed a lot. And as I mentioned earlier, and so we just decided that we wanted to go different directions on how we wanted to take the business. And so that's what we did. It was an amicable settlement. We're still friends today.
Sure.
But times, business changes, and you just decide. And sometimes those changes are kind of acrimonious and can be real tough and difficult.
Yeah.
But we just decided, who was going to take what out of the business, and just shook hands on it. And it was, we just did it over a park bench in a local park in Oakland, California.
Good for you. Yeah, friends of mine, everybody's my friend, but say they owned a pest company, both older gentlemen, right? And one of them was like, I'm done, right? And Kelly, he's like, I think I still kind of want to keep working. He's like, I need to cash out. And he's like, yeah, I just want to work for somebody, but like kind of on my time. And so then they ended up selling to a company that took it over. And, you know, now Kelly still works for the other guy and just when he wants to on his time. And the other one's just living retirement and having a good time. You know, I say we went golfing not too long back.
You know, people ask me all the time when I'm quitting because
Yeah.
my wife's business is taking off.
Yeah,
And my answer is I work from home
never.
and I'm fine.
Yeah.
As long as, you know, I don't have a boss that irritates me, I'm great. I'll keep working from home and I got no issues.
Yeah. That's why I became my own boss, so that way nobody can irritate me but myself. I'm kind of a dick to myself. So
We are both kind of an acquired taste.
that's a fact. We say we're looking. Do you think that every business should get sold? Or do you think
I think most every business should be sold. The problem is they don't get sold. In fact, there's an interesting statistic out there that most people never hear about, is that nearly over 80% of businesses that are started, now this is large, small, you know, home-based businesses, but the whole universe of businesses out there, 80% don't get sold. And they should get sold. You know, if there were some basic things done, and I'll go back to your real estate example, every property generally can get sold. It's worth something to somebody.
Yeah.
If you do certain things and maintaining that property and improving and enhancing the property, even those enhancements may be cosmetic to some people, you can dramatically increase the value of what that property is worth to a certain type of buyer. And it's the same thing with businesses. The problem is no one plans far enough ahead to create the value that someone would see in the business when it comes time for that person to exit. The real issue is that most exits, most people sell a business because it's event driven. Something happens. You got sick, somebody in the family died, and a key employee left, you're burned out, competition, technology change. There's an event that someone says, oh, I think I better sell. And then it's a race to the exits to sell the business. It's like a fire drill. And when everyone in the theater is running at the exits at the same time, when there's a downturn in the economy, those exits don't do well. You know, some of them don't happen at all and they end up just closing. However, I can say, I'll go back to your real estate example again, not to be redundant, but if you've maintained the property well, even if there's a downturn, that property maintains and has more value than someone that didn't. And when it comes to the business, it's exactly the same thing. The problem is people don't take it seriously. Things are going well and they think they're always going to go well, or the entrepreneurial mindset is that I'll figure it out. You know, I've always been able to overcome obstacles and challenges. When it comes time to sell, I'll just figure it out. And
that's my biggest.
The optimism of the glass is always going to be half full. Statistics don't bear that out. Data doesn't bear that out though.
To say, as an entrepreneur yourself, you know that those are our favorite words. We'll figure it out. Say that's just it. Like,
well, the issue is in your day-to-day business, you have time to figure it out, and you generally do, and that's what makes entrepreneurs successful because they do figure it out. But when it comes to exits, the time window that you have a lot of times isn't enough time to figure it out, and things can go south very quickly, and bad things happen when you aren't prepared.
Now, so this brings me to a great point. How do you know when it's time? So like, for example, my wife's business has been open just over 2 years, and I decided in June to try and die. So she was in the hospital with me basically every day for 2 weeks and had to trust other people to run the business. So, you know, let's pretend for a minute this was a 10-year-old business at that point.
Uh-huh.
How do you know it's time to get out before you run into an issue like that?
Well, that's exactly what I was talking about, is that an exit can be event driven. Your wife got sick, and if she couldn't, or you got sick and your wife was, away from the business, if you hadn't gotten better and your wife had to not be able to return to the business, that's an event driven business. Now, if she had done nothing to prepare the business, hadn't kept up on her accounting and their taxes and all the things that you do to run and manage a business optimally, if you're prepared for that. In fact, I'm writing a book that's called Pack Your Parachute. And that's based on the metaphor that a pilot doesn't pack his parachute when the engines are on fire. He has the parachute packed and he grabs it and jumps. Now, he may be flying his plane up for a skydiving, and that's voluntarily. And so he knows that when he jumps from the plane, the parachute's gonna open and he's gonna have a nice, enjoyable ride to the ground. But if the engines are on fire and he jumps involuntarily, he's ready to jump. And so the question you ask is, when is you ready? Well, you may not know when you're going to be ready. So the point is that you have to operate your business like you're going to sell it next year. And if you always have your business positioned like that, and something triggers the necessity to exit, then you grab your parachute and you're ready to go. You don't try to pack it when, you're in a hospital sick, or you're managing an illness or something like that, and you just can't focus on it. Things don't turn out as well as you would hope in those type of situations.
So my next question, I guess, would be, what do you feel about people who grow businesses just to sell them?
I think they're smart.
Really? I say that's that's great, because I watch like Gary Vaynerchuk. Do you know who he is by chance?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right. So he talks about that, and he's like, if you grow your business to sell, you're not going to grow it to its potential because you're so focused on just getting that amount of money to sell it.
Well, I'll take the other side of that coin and say that I understand that.
Sure.
However, your business, if you grow a business to sell it and you bring it to, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 would be as big as you ever thought you could grow it. Now, I'll just pick a number, $10 million.
Sure.
That's your goal, to get to $10 million. If you grow the business to $10 million and there's really no more growth available in the market you're in or the type of product you're selling, you've grown it to $10 million and that's it. Well, that's not going to be worth a lot to a buyer, because he looks at it and says, well, there's really no more business there to get. You've gotten 80 or 90% of the business. But if you grow it to 50% and there's 50% more to go, well, a strategic buyer will look at that business and say, well, I want to buy that business because I can take it and grow it even more. And then what you exit at that point in time and you start your next thing and you grow that business and you grow it to a point where there is a lot of opportunity for a buyer coming in. And if you do it right and you can target the type of buyer or who should be buying your business, they will pay up a lot more of a multiple on revenue or profitability than you might imagine, because a buyer looks at the business and says, okay, it's a buy or build type of decision for a buyer. They look at your business and say, well, we could do the same thing. If we're going to pay $2 million for this business, so we have a decision to make. Should we invest the $2 million and do it ourselves? But that's going to take 3 or 4 years for us to do that.
Sure.
Well, the market will change. Well, it's better just to write the $2 million check, or maybe $2.5 million check, to buy that business, because you don't have the luxury of time, because your competitors are moving faster than you are, and you need that business to keep a competitive edge against your competitors. So you will pay up and pay more than the business is actually worth from a financial point of view. because it's important to that buyer. So that comes right back to my point a little bit earlier. You just sort of have to know who your buyer is going to be and be prepared for that buyer. So when they come and take a look at the business, everything that they want to see is already there. You've anticipated. Just like, I'll go back to the real estate example. You know, if an investor, a real estate investor is going to look at your business, he's going to want to see your cash flow statements. He's going to want to see your maintenance records. He's going to want to see your tenant and the type of tenants that you have and your leases. Those are the type of things that he's going to want to see. So if you anticipate that and you have all that lined up and you've managed that properly, your business is more attractive than somebody with the same type of property or similar type of property that doesn't have all that information.
Sure. Yeah.
They
Say,
will pay
you know,
less.
when I was younger, I used to be into disc golf a little bit, and a friend of mine and I started a business. We were dyeing disc, custom made, and then we would dye socks and t-shirts, tie dye, right? And we did it for fun. We didn't really do it to sell the business in any way. Had no intention. A little bit in, right, we started getting our kind of name a little bit out there, and we had a very large company reach out to us and say, hey, we want to buy your business. And we're like, what? We thought it was a joke. The guy's like, hey, I'll fly in, we'll meet, we'll do this, and I'll throw you an offer. And I was like, I mean, dude, well, hey, we're broke as crap, you know. I mean, and we're like, hey, we'll take a free dinner. So we'll come to, I mean, they ended up paying us substantial, way more than we had thought, right? I think at the time we probably would have gotten rid of the business for, $12 in a case of Bud Light, and we ended up getting substantially more than that. So
I'm curious, why did they want to buy your business? Why was it important for them? Why did they reach out to you?
Because they reached out to us because of how quick we were growing with exactly what we were doing, right? So our designs were one of a kinds. Basically, they didn't want the competition at this point. They also wanted to they offered us positions to do it in-house for them. And they were so, because they were already, I guess, up there getting to going out, that they could see the next person coming up saying, hey, this has potential to do something.
See, there's a case study. In my book, that's a case study on what a business can be worth. It was more valuable to them than it was to you, because they could see, because they are evaluating different types of things. They're looking at their competition. They're looking at what you do. They're looking at how fast you're growing.
Yeah.
And you're not even considering all that stuff.
We had no idea. We were so young.
And so you inadvertently, just by working hard and being creative, created a valuable asset to somebody else. Now, if you take that same concept and you actually plan for that type of event, you're a little bit smarter in the next business that you do. You plan for that type of event. So you do things differently to make that business attractive to others down the road. So all I'm saying is that it doesn't take a whole lot more work to think about building a business to sell, because then you know why you're doing it and the type of things that need to be done to make it attractive to somebody else.
Sure.
That's all it is.
I say, when I told you I had the t-shirt company, and I had somebody reach out to me and they said, hey, I'll buy your business or whatever. And then, I quickly threw a number out, because I was like, hey, this is what it's going to take. And they're like, I can go buy all the product. And I was like, you're not buying just what I do, right? Like, you're not buying the material, the machines and stuff. Like, you're getting my clientele, which took me so long to build up, right? Like, you will get names, addresses. You have to go build that relationship. And if you keep it, that's on you. But if not, oh well. Like, so I didn't end up selling it. It wasn't my priority. And to me, it's always really hard, I guess, to be able to give up that information, because I built that relationship with those people so much that it's just hard to, like, hey, give it out, right? And just go, here, now you do this for them, right? So, I had a couple contracts, one with a fun gentlemen's club.
Parkway.
We had Great Lakes Unsalted. I did all of their stickers for the longest time, right? So they got into a medium-sized business, I would say, and they subbed out all a lot of their stuff, and so to me it was like, man, to give up those contracts and figure out the value of them and what it could be over however long, it should have been worth it, but it wasn't worth it to me, right? Like now I make my daughter, I think I have to go home tonight at like 11 o'clock and make my kid a t-shirt ready for Friday, right? So my thousands of dollars are sitting around. Granted, I could have sold the business for, let's say, I don't care, $50,000, whatever it be. I could have bought 5 million t-shirts, but no, I gotta make one. It's so shame on me. But like again, I was plenty successful with that.
You bring up a good example because we get questions all the time. Hey, I'm looking to open a similar business. Will you help me? We had a weird one the other day.
Yeah.
Sent us a message that basically said, hey, I have all this inventory and I'm going to open that business. And we didn't really understand where it was going. And it turned out that they've had this idea for 2 years and they see that we're here. So now they're not going to open the business. And I think when people, I'm not going to call them entrepreneurs because they're really not, look at starting their own business, they think, hey, this is financial freedom. This is, I get to work when I want to work. And they don't really know what goes into running a successful business.
Right.
And I mean, Marvin, how long does it take a week to run a successful business? I mean, I know my answer, Nick knows his, but we're going to defer to you. You're the professional here.
Well, it depends on the stage of business. I've often said that, for the first 5 years or 7 years, however long it takes, you're never paid what you're worth, and then you get to a point in your business where you're paid really for what you're worth. Your business is matured, you got some volume going, you got customers, you have those relationships like you talked about, and you're sort of paid what you're worth. And then your business really gets cranking if you do the right things to grow and mature that business, maybe 10 years, 12 years down the road or whatever it is, maybe shorter, maybe longer. You get to a point where you're paid more than you're worth. And that's where the employees, grouse about the boss that doesn't hardly work at all. And he's getting paid boatloads of money and has the car and the extra house and the country and takes vacations and things like that because he's paying a lot more than the effort that he's putting into the business, because the business is now systematized and it is working and he has those relationships and he has a brand. And so, that is generally the entrepreneurial journey for the ideal of how you want to grow and build a business. What you don't want to have happen is you don't do the right things and you end up being in the trenches for 15, 20 years, never being paid for what you're worth. Sure. And a lot of businesses do that because the entrepreneur often can't get out of his own way, can't hire the right people, can't sell, can't manage his finances, and he's his own worst enemy. And so it really depends on the circumstances and situation. But the ideal situation is to get to that point where the business has taken on a life of its own and the business can go on without the entrepreneur because the right things have happened in the business that he doesn't have to be there every day.
Sure. And that's one of the biggest fights my wife and I have. I can't say one of the big, I always say that. We just fight all the time. No, I'm just kidding.
But not really.
Say, Kmart and Walmart, right? So like my wife and your wife both hate Jeff Bezos just because he's this rich, pompous, whatever, that shot a rocket up in space. And I'm like, it's his money. I don't really care. We talked about that, but like you look at Kmart and Walmart, right? Both opened their first store in the first year, right? Kmart got huge, right? They grew so many. And now like the last remaining Kmart is closing by the end of this year. Yeah.
Michigan company, last one's closing.
Right. And so this was And then Walmart, right? Like because of their business structure, the way they did it, like they're now just huge. And my wife's angry because these people get to live off of, and I was like, you could be the biggest, baddest, whatever. Like you still have that potential to fail and fall. Like, why are you mad because people are out there being successful? Like that's just shame on you for that. And yeah, granted, apparently don't ever tell your wife shame on you. But I will tell you is like, I understand that no matter what I do every single day, I could be doing this podcast, I could say the wrong thing. My tenants could hear it, something else could happen. Like everybody just says, hey, let's just F Nick, right? Like boom, and I would just be done, right? Like you can't sit here and do that type of a thing because you know, even the big dogs fall at times, right? I mean, you hear about, I mean, Wall Street, right? How many times do places go for, you know, foreclosed or bankrupt or,
You know,
It's
me
just-
coaching, I got fired.
right? Like you're
And I'm
So-
the best coach of the back twice.
say, you know, you actually had kids show up.
I
So,
did.
right? But you know, so it's just that is a huge fight. So like when you say that to me, it's just it's so true where you know you have to keep focus on it. I mean, understand where your business is going. So
Yeah, it's all about execution, you know.
yeah,
Some people can execute, you know, your Walmart example and Kmart, you know, that type of situation. Sears, same type of situation. J.C. Penney, same type
Yeah.
of situation.
Circuit City versus Best Buy, right? I mean,
Yeah, they just you know, didn't execute well, hired the wrong people, you know, didn't have the right strategy. You know, it's all about the ability to change with the times and keep up on it. And some companies are very good at it.
yeah, I'm horrible. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this without David because I can't do technology. I mean,
You can't do technology, you can't figure out a time.
yeah, I got nothing. Like, dude, I'm
You just show up when I ask you
right.
to.
Like, hey, you got all right, yeah, I got you. Don't worry. If not, I'll do it from home. Like, let me see how this works out. And half time I'm focused on other things. No. I think I guess I need to figure out with you when you're going to sell, how do you get the maximum amount of money? And I think like you've touched on a little bit with like, hey, make sure you keep your records and have your financials and do all that. But like, what's the best way to go about selling? If somebody's in it, what's the best way to go about selling a business?
Well, I think the best thing someone that has a business is to go through the exercise of asking, you know, the question, would I buy my business today in the condition that it's in? Knowing what I know, would I pay what I would want for the business would if I were the buyer?
Yeah.
And I've asked that question a lot of times, and I've often see people kind of look down at their shoes or on the desk and say, you know, I wouldn't pay the amount of money that I want to sell the business. And so there's a big disconnect between what they would want to sell the business for and what they would want to buy that business for, because they know the internal workings of that business.
Sure.
And there's that big delta between. So you just got to close that gap between having the right type of things happen within the business to create the value that you would actually pay for what that business would be sold for and what you want to sell the business for.
Yeah.
You can say to yourself, yeah, I'm going to sell the business for 500,000 or $1 million, whatever the number is. And I would pay that amount of money for the business because I know the business will earn that money. I could borrow the money. I could make the loan payments. I could hire the right people, and I could grow the business because the market there is to grow the business. Once you can answer that question honestly, then you're on the right track. And then you just, if there are certain gaps there, then you just focus on those gaps. And there are some other things that we don't have time to talk about here that buyers really want to see in a business that sellers don't have a clue. they don't even think about those type of things because they're not aware of them. They've never gone through an exit or never sold a business for. So they don't know the type of questions that a buyer is going to be asking. And so when they actually do ask those questions, they have a blank stare and they say, oh, well, I'll have to get back to you on that. You know,
Sure.
and then they go try to figure out, well, what can I do to answer those questions? And sometimes you can, and sometimes you just have to say, well, I don't have that. Or one thing is customer concentration. For example, you mentioned that you had the business you had doing your t-shirts and things, that you had key customers. Well, if your key customer is Walmart and he has 90% of all the orders the revenue that you generate comes from that one customer, and you have a few other small customers, you will never be able to, it'll be very difficult, if almost impossible, to sell that business, because if Walmart has a change in attitude and goes a different direction, you're out of business, and buyers don't want to take that risk. And so you may think that you're making a boatload of money, but your business is, and you may be making a boatload of money, but your business isn't saleable because you have only one customer or very few customers.
So, you mentioned that you got out of one poorly. Can you describe that?
Yeah, I early in my career, I opened up a retail location. I had 3 of them at the time. And I had acquired this new location. It was a brand new strip center and kind of the end cap on the strip center. And I opened up a location there. And I thought that this was going to be a home run. I just thought because I'd had 2 other successful locations, and I got to believing my own press clippings that I was smarter than I really was. And I ran that location in 9 months. I was losing my shirt. I was sucking all the money out of the other 2 locations to keep this one open. And I ended up closing that location and walking away from it. And because I did all the wrong things. I made decisions based on emotion and not on facts. When I look back on the decision to expand into that location, it was all emotionally driven. It was the marquee, the brand new center. It was in a new part of town. There was a lot of traffic. The location would serve as a billboard. All those things were more ego driven than they were actually data driven of the type of customers that would come in and the type of traffic that was there. It was all commute traffic. No one was slowing down. They were going 50 miles an hour in front of the location. They weren't slowing down to stop and shop. And so lesson learned, a painful lesson learned, cost me a lot of money. Sure. And just about sucked me under. And because of that, when I exited the business, because it was after that I decided to exit, I had very little profitability and had a very bad exit.
So,
but lesson learned.
Yes.
And those are sometimes the best
Lick
lessons.
my wounds and move on to the next thing.
I say at least it didn't, financially. I mean, it hit you a little bit, but you learned, and then you become successful.
So we're getting close.
I swore I'd never go through that again.
So we're getting close to wrapping up, but we kind of want to know, Marvin, what was your most successful close?
Well, it was my last exit that I had. I bought a company that was struggling. It was a national company, had hundreds of locations around the country. And I came in and I was able to turn the company around, reposition it. Took me 5 to 7 years to do that. But I positioned it and was able to, exit successfully and profitably. I was able to take something that was losing money and turn it around to where I was making money. And it became an acquisition to a strategic buyer that was in the same industry. I was in the logistics business, as I said. It was in the same industry. And this was an add-on to the type of businesses they were doing that expanded their reach and their footprint and what they were doing. And it was attractive to them. And I was able to, to exit, profitably and walk away from it successfully. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't gone through the learning curve, um, you know, and had my belly flops along the way, because those painful experiences you have do, it's the school of hard knocks.
Right.
And what I learned is that you have to think about the exit. I was thinking about the exit way in advance of ever getting to that last lap. I knew the last lap was coming, and I knew what I needed to do in that last lap to be able to finish strong and to hit the finish line appropriately at the right time. I had thought about that. I had planned about it, and I had a lot of the things teed up. I didn't have as much teed up as I thought I thought I knew more than I knew, and that's what the danger is, because I hadn't been through that size of exit before. I thought I knew a lot more than I did, and but
Sure.
it still worked out okay.
Good. I say that's always a positive, right? To
Yeah.
rebound back. Marvin, I want to thank you so much for your time. Real quick, I want to give you a couple of seconds to let you tell everybody a little bit about where they can find you.
Plug everything.
You mentioned a book. I mean, just sell away.
No, I think I have this podcast called Business Exit Stories, where I interview the deal makers that make deals happen, help entrepreneurs exit their business, and they share stories on the podcast, of the good stories, the bad stories, and why they're good and why they're bad. And each story lasts, 10 minutes or so, 12 minutes. And I am writing this book. And but probably the best thing to do is for anyone that has a business, whether they're just starting a business or they're midway and they're working hard to grow it, or they're getting toward the exit, to be selling in a few years. I have this report that I put together that talks about how you can double the price of your exit, the amount of money that you put in your pocket when you exit your business. It's a free report. Just go to Business Exit Stories /report 2, and you can go and you can download that report. So that's just the name of the podcast is businessexitstories.com /report to get the report, but it's report 2. And it's a quick read. It's about a 10-minute read, maybe 15-minute read, and it'll give you some real insights on what you can do today to eventually double the amount of money you're going to get and be able to put in your pocket when you sell.
Yeah.
Well worth reading.
Hey, Essex, I know there's a lot of things I do unsuccessfully because of the way I was mentored that I could change right now if I had to go sell my business. Marvin, anything else that you want to tell us? Things we should look out for. Let's say
I think you should pull up stakes and move to California. That's
Dude,
what I think you should do.
If
You're ready for San Diego.
Hey, Marvin, are
You would fit in California.
Do you like money? Does $100 motivate you?
Motivates me.
Sometimes, yeah. But at
All
this
right,
point
so
in my life, money is a lot less important than it used to be.
All right, so I have $100 right now, cash. If you can convince my wife to let me just move to California with her and the kid, I will personally write you a check, and we can frame it. I'll even write you 2, one to frame and one to keep. So it's technically $200 if you ever have to break it for emergencies. I've never offered $200 to anybody. You can convince my wife that we go to California. I'm all about this, right?
I'm going to say right now.
Let me tell you, I love California. I've been here a long time, but in the last few years, it's getting really challenging to live here for a lot of different reasons. But,
Sure.
I live not too far from these wildfires that were going on that was headed towards Lake Tahoe. I only live an hour from Lake Tahoe. And it was pretty scary, to think that whole community could go up in smoke, because that fire was out of control, and they threw everything they could to stop that fire before it got to South Lake Tahoe.
Good for you. So we're going to keep in touch. We should. in 2 years, I'm headed to Reno because next year's Las Vegas. And so when I fly into Reno, I can either take a really awesome taxi or a limo to Lake Tahoe, or I walk out the crap doors and I go to the casino. It blows my mind because like if you've been to the airport, right? It says like Lake Tahoe and it looks beautiful. And then you have like these like scrubby doors in the other part of it. And you're just like, I want to go to Lake Tahoe. It just looks so much better. So I'm going to come visit you in like 2 years because that's when I'm going to be in the area. So
You know, you say you want to go to California, but where you really want to move is Mexico.
that's a factual statement.
Just
All day,
saying.
dude. I'll give anybody $500 for Mexico, $200 for California, $500 for Mexico.
There you go.
Say I've raised my prices even more. Like I used to start at like $10, right? So
Can't thank you enough, Marvin, for joining us.
All right, this has been a lot of fun. You guys are fun to talk to, be around. So I've really enjoyed this. So thanks for inviting me.
We appreciate that a lot. Nick's gonna go with his normal. We're gonna talk about our beers here real quick. Right?
Yeah, as always, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family.
Go like Marvin's podcast, listen to him.
Yeah, of course. Buy his book when it comes out.
Absolutely.
If he needs publishing, I know people for some reason. I know everybody.
We know people.
We are Bucks and Brews. We have our own glasses. I'd like to thank Founders
Thank you for that.
Solid Gold and Founders Dirty Bastard for some fantastic beers this evening.
I'm gonna thank New Holland for the Ichabod, which is good.
Ichabod's always good beer.
Atwater.
I actually really
pumpkin
enjoyed that.
spice latte,
Like I was
very
gonna give
good.
you so much crap when you said pumpkin spice latte. I was like,
You
where's
liked
Starbucks
it.
at, right? I tried it. I was like, that's such a good beer.
And Pigeon Hills Donut, stop believing, because I love Journey.
Because we love Journey all day. So Marvin, we're gonna send you some emails. We're gonna get some type of way to send you a magnet.
Yep.
We're still a small company, but we like to support people
Every
who
company starts small.
we support we support our people who like to support us and be
Yeah.
on the podcast. So I'll make sure that you get a magnet or a sticker or something. We'll reach out to
cool.
you via email. Thank you again so
Thank you
much.
so
Have a
much.
great night.
Hey, this has been fun. Appreciate it.